Assassin's Creed, the game that started it all. A game that spawned an entire franchise and still influences other franchises outside its own. How do I describe this game? I have been thinking the answer to this very question for well over a week now, and I still don't have an answer. So this video is essentially just me trying to explain how I feel about this game as well as I can. And this entire thing is obviously subjective, so keep that in mind. Assassin's Creed is truly a game like no other. It's not like any other games on the market. It's not even like any other games in the franchise. What this game does is very simple. The game itself, though, is anything but that. On surface, Assassin's Creed is simple enough to explain. You are Desmond Miles, who is a bartender, although you won't be serving any drinks in this game. You do get kidnapped, and through a piece of tech called the Animus, you are forced to relive the memories of your ancestors, which are buried deep inside your DNA. Now, this concept is not realistic. This concept is what science fiction is all about. This is fiction that is somewhat scientific, even though the theory itself has been disproved. So, of course, that's what you do, and your ancestor in this case is Altair, who is, a disgraced protagonist. Like, he breaks all three tenets of the creed while going after Robert de Sable in the very first sequence of the game. And since he has now lost his honor and his rank, his master sets him out to kill 9 targets to get back his rank. The process is fairly simple. To acquire a target, you pickpocket someone, eavesdrop on someone, maybe kill some archers. There are like 5 or 6 objectives like this. And all the while you are actually collecting some crucial information, because after you pickpocket someone, you come to know about, the palace layout is like this. Or maybe while you are eavesdropping, you hear that this target is going to be here in this area of the map and things like that. It is an organic way to find out information, but I would be lying if I said this isn't repetitive. This is. In fact, this is not the only thing that is repetitive. Most NPC archetypes only have 1 or 2 lines that they keep repeating. Basically, if there is a guard in a particular city, they have only 1 voice line and they will keep repeating it. So while the atmosphere is great, these are some things that are genuinely something this game could have done better. It does get distracting after a while, but you have to remember, this is a game that released 14 years ago, back in 2007. So many of the advancements that we see now were obviously not present in this game. All the while though, while you are engaging with these tasks, you are doing this through what is quite possibly one of the best movement systems ever created in a video game. To the point where other games in different franchises are still trying to mimic these systems and are still praised for it. 14 years after the game was released. This was indeed a groundbreaking system. Now you may or may not like it. Like, you may think that sometimes the controls don't work, or maybe you feel like it's a bit janky. All valid criticisms, I would agree. But you also have to remember, no one had done something like this before. And also, just the controls. Like right now, let's compare it to maybe a more modern game. Say, the most modern game in this franchise, which is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And you look at Valhalla and you see like, oh, there are the movement controls, then there's a button to attack, there's a button for heavy attack, there's a button to dodge, there's a button to parry, there are skills, there are so many things. Here though, there are 5 buttons. In this game, this entire game is played with 5 buttons. Yes, you have more. So like, to select the different tools, you have these buttons. You can use the D-pad or you can use the number keys depending on which platform you are playing on. But in gameplay, you ever only use 5 buttons. So this of course is the puppeteering system, where 1 button is all the controls you need for your head. So like, you need to interact, you need to talk to someone, you need to use that button. So anytime you need to use a button where your head is involved, it is one button. One is for your hand, so that if you are interacting with something, you need to use that button because that you are using your hand. That is the puppeteering system. There is one button for offhand, which is what you use to interact with most objects in the world. The hand button is used for attacking. Then there are your legs, which are used for initiating parkour or jumping if you are in high profile. Or you can even use it to blend in with the different crowds, so like with the scholars. So all of these things are controlled by these 5 buttons. With these 5 buttons, this game manages to have a much deeper gameplay system than most modern AAA games can even dream of. Like Valhalla is not deep. It's a fairly basic control system. But when you look at this game and you see that this is just 5 buttons, you realize the amount of depth they achieved with just these 5 buttons, and you start realizing the absolute geniuses who designed this game. This is something, if you really want to, look at a game that is designed well, look at this game, because it is. Now to something that wasn't good again, and that was the combat. Look, it did a lot of things well. It had a brilliant traversal system. The social stealth was a fantastic addition. Like, they did things that no one had done before. Or even if people had done it before, it hadn't been done to this extent. But the one thing it suffers in is combat. Combat is not that good. It is just functional. The combat in this game is basically just functional. It is very easy to pull off. There is no real skill in this game. But after all of that, after you gather all the targets, after you gather all the information related to said targets, that is when the truly beautiful part about this game starts, and that is the assassinations. You have a target, and armed with your knowledge that you gained from all these missions, you go and you kill the target. How you approach the situation is on you. When you strike is also your own choice. Some publishers love to talk about player choice. Well, choosing to pay over grinding mindless tasks is not player choice. This is. If you were under assumption though that you are simply murdering some bad guys because you are an assassin, you are assassinating people, Templars are bad guys, they want to control the world. Well, as is the fashion with this game, things are more complicated than that. There are no good guys in this game. This game portrays people as we truly are. Flawed in our beliefs, flawed in our thoughts, flawed in our actions. And nothing drives that point home more than these conversations between Altair and his targets. Because yes, at first when you start killing them, you're like, oh yeah, they were doing some pretty bad things. Then it turns out maybe they weren't. Maybe they really were trying to help in their own twisted way. Everyone has their own beliefs. Like, if you look at the world right now, this game is very relevant. Like, look at the kind of places we live in. Like, everyone is always so polarized about everything. We can't agree on basic things. We can't agree on anything. Everyone is just out there to fight. We cannot recognize that someone else might just have a good point, might just have a different perspective, and that we should maybe consider that perspective sometimes. Doesn't mean I'm saying that you should support genocide. Doesn't mean I am saying that you should support pedophiles. I'm not saying those are the perspectives we need to consider. But to view everyone as a monster or to view some people as saints is a mistake that we are going to regret in our society. And that is something that we are barreling towards. And that is why I feel like this game is actually very relevant to what is going on in our world right now. But that is not all what this game is about. I cannot talk about this game and not talk about the world itself. This is not some big, massive, flat, open world. It is anything but that. This is a well-designed, sort of semi-open world, because this is not really your big, massive open worlds. These are 3 cities, essentially, and Masyaf Castle. In these cities, though, this is your playground. These 3 cities, they have their own flavor, they have their own architecture. but they are still built to support these parkour mechanics that are in the game. This groundbreaking movement system that I talked about before, it wouldn't have worked so well had it not been for the excellent world design. The world design really complements what we are doing in the world, and that is something that I can't really say about most games nowadays. Like most open world games nowadays, they just do open world because it's fashionable to have an open world in your game. These open worlds, they don't really flow that well. And well, if you stay tuned to my channel, I am also making a video on that. That's why, there's just some shameless self-plugging. So yeah. Now there are different layers of verticality, allowing you to choose exactly how you want to get to an objective. It's not just you are on the roof or you're on the street. No, there's a third layer in between. Sometimes there are multiple layers of verticality. So it really becomes a very engaging gameplay mechanic where even if you are not really doing any gameplay objectives, just running around in the world, it is brilliant. You can do this for hours because you're constantly engaged. Compare that to games like, say, the newer Assassin's Creed games or even other games. You know what? Screw the newer Assassin's Creed games. I feel like they are not really good games. Let's compare a really good game. Let's say Red Dead Redemption 2. When you are horse riding, yes, you are kind of engaged if you are doing the whole spamming that button to essentially conserve your horse's stamina. But other than that, honestly, you are not really engaging with the world while you're traversing with it. And that's not bad by design. Red Dead Redemption 2 does a lot of other things to mitigate that effect in their world. But my point is, this game, you are constantly engaged with the gameplay mechanics just for traversal. Now, you might find that tiresome at times, but I personally find them to be fun. So, that's that. Now, there are many more details about what makes this game great. Now, you may or may not think this game is great. That is your personal opinion, as this is mine. And I cannot delve into all the details without making this video like an hour long. So, usually in these videos, in the end, this is essentially a review. So, in the end, I give these games a score. Well, I'm not going to insult this game by giving it a score, which is just a fancy way of me saying that I have absolutely no idea how to rate this thing, so I am chickening out, essentially. When I first played this game as a kid, I didn't understand what this game was or who this game was for. It didn't appeal to me because hell, I didn't care about the targets, I didn't care about what they had to say, I didn't care about the parkour mechanics because I sucked at it. And now that I'm playing this game after I'm somewhat older and hopefully wiser, now that I'm revisiting this game, I have realized that this game has an answer for virtually every problem that I have ever had with the series. Ezio doesn't blend in properly with the crowd because of his arsenal of weapons. Well, no problem, because Altair does. And Altair only blends in with the monks because he looks like the monks. He doesn't look like the other civilians. With the other games, there are many gripes that I have had personally with, the way assassinations work, with the way things work out, especially with the modern games. This game has a solution to all that I wanted from this franchise. So essentially, this is the game that I always wanted, but I didn't even know that this game had all this. I didn't realize that this was the game I wanted. And to that end, Assassin's Creed now joins the list of the best games that I have ever played. And it genuinely makes the case for being the best game that I have ever played. And in that, it joins the list of some of the other games that I feel have really revolutionized the way I think about games. In essence, those are Red Dead Redemption 2, as I talked about, or maybe Witcher 3. Then Need for Speed Most Wanted. Like I got into racing because of that game. Then there was GTA San Andreas. This game has elevated from, just being meh to me to being a top tier game that, I have no other game to really compare it with. And so I would say that is one hell of a shift in perspective. But all that said though, that's the end of today's video. Now, if you like this video, then please consider pressing that like button And also, I do make other content like this, and so do subscribe to my channel for more content, because I do put out a lot more content on this channel. And if you want to check out my channel, of course, you can always, go inside my channel, check the videos that I do make. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're staying safe, because the pandemic is still not over. Our world is still horribly screwed. And well, I hope these things are still over, and maybe one day we can just go out and enjoy ourselves once again. But all that said though, once again, if you like this video, press that like button and do subscribe to my channel, because I would really appreciate that. And I will leave you guys in peace.